Welcome back to Designsmith. In this video, we are continuing our series on weekly favorites of designs that I found on Pinterest. Alright, first off, sorry that I didn't post on Saturday. We went out of town for the weekend and things were a little bit crazy on Friday. So sorry it's a couple of days late, but here we are. Before we get started, please subscribe to support the channel. Alright, the first poster we're going to be checking out is this Swiss design poster. And this one particularly caught my eye because I thought it was really cool how it's going from the circle all the way down to the square. So it's kind of showing that gradual change going on there between these shapes. And it's a very cool use of color, literally, it's this really nice blue color. And the use of the type right here is definitely following some Swiss design principles. If you haven't checked out my video on how to scale your type in Swiss designs, check it out right up here. But something like this could easily be adapted for like an album or even a concert or something like that. And to get outside of the mindset of just thinking about music, it can really be adapted for a lot of different things. But as you know, I really like to focus a lot on music on this channel. But overall, it's a very cool use of Swiss design elements, typography, and colors. Alright, next up is this really cool design, and I love the use of colors in this design, and the fact that it's perfectly balanced on the left side versus the right side. We've got this really awesome red ampersand on this pink background right here, and the two colors just work so well together. I'd love to see the original grid on this poster if it had one. I'm very curious to see exactly where the grids fall on this design, because the type is very close to the edges right here, and I'm sure that is by design because it does look to be very consistent when you're going towards the edges here. The spacing right here is very nicely done. Same thing in this area right down here. And plus, this is just an example of a poster that communicates its message very effectively. Even though half of the ampersand is covered up, you still clearly know what it is. So it's not like you have to stand there and guess what the message is. And then I love how it acts as a complete sentence. It says, "and more." And what they're doing over here on this side is they just have a shape that's covering this up, probably a rectangle that's going all the way down. The method here is a lot simpler than you might think, because at first you might be thinking they used the Pathfinder, but the designer probably just put an ampersand down and put a rectangle over it. And then to finish it off, they brought it in Photoshop to apply that paper effect. So overall, a very cool design and a great way to communicate your message. Alright, this next one up is one of my favorite posters that I've ever seen. It's just the word hot, and its use here is so effective. I can't really zoom in to see this small type, so I'm not really sure exactly what it's supposed to be communicating here, but the design and the color are both visually striking. The lines here are so thin that when you actually analyze this, they're just three very large rectangles. And then they use these really thin lines to just kind of cut into them to create the letters. And in my opinion, the sheer is everything here. I don't think that it would have the same visual impact if it wasn't sheared. It's just a really cool design overall, and it really gives off vibes of excitement. I would love to see posters that were directly inspired by this design. Alright, this next one up is a straight up classic. This is Joseph Müller-Brockmann's Beethoven poster, and it is a classic example in Swiss design principles. One of the Swiss design books that I have actually has the original guide laid out for this, and it's really cool just to analyze. But you've got all these really cool shapes right over here that are kind of like an abstract piano, and then you have Beethoven's name listed right here. If you look really closely, let me pull up one of my rulers here. You can actually see that the guideline is directly lined up right here, so it's right aligned, and then this right here is probably right aligned as well, going all the way down, and then there's a little bitty gutter right here of space, and just kind of zoom in, a little bitty gutter of space right here, and then the rest of it is all left aligned right here. I don't know if I've actually done a poster directly inspired by this one, but I'd love to try my hand at it and see what I can do. But for the most part, anything by Müller-Brockmann is going to be a classic, and this is a great design in Swiss principles. Alright, next up is another Swiss design. I think I've actually got quite a few Swiss design posters in here. And this one here is just so simple, effective, and attractive. But all that they're doing here is they've got a little gray background, they've got this circle right here, and then the circle itself is actually opaque. So that's how they're achieving that shaded look right here. The text is actually behind this circle, and I love the fact that it's still legible. And for some reason, even though it is a little bit inconsistent, there are no effects going on this text, and somehow I just like it. But the line spacing here is virtually non-existent. There's a little bit of spacing, but not a whole lot. And then the use of these slashes right here at the end of each word, it's just a very original element, especially when you consider the thickness. You've got this nice bold type with these really thin slanted lines. All of these elements combine together really well to make this really cool design. And I feel like you could easily do a series of posters like this, kind of changing out the colors and also the positioning of the circle, and you could give that series a very nice cohesive feel. Alright, next up, you know I've got to include something shoegaze related in here, and this is a My Bloody Valentine Swiss Design poster. And this design was done by Swisted. If you haven't checked out any of those posters, then definitely head over to the website and see what all they have. I left the link down in the description. So this is a very effective use of Swiss design principles. I'm not exactly sure what this font is. It could be Helvetica, but I don't think it actually is. But the layering we've got going on right here, along with the color changes, is just visually striking. It gives a really good sense of depth right here. There's no flatness to this design. And I love how it's using the red and the blue, and then it just kind of introduces this orange right up here. There's nothing else that's orange outside of this text, and it's another great example that you don't have to have more than one element for a color. And overall, I just love the simplicity of the design. What's going on right here is kind of like an offset path around the type itself. So at first, while it may look arbitrary, it's actually very well planned. And this is another poster that I would love to see the original grid for. All right, next up is yet another Swiss design poster, and you can see right here, just in this little small collection, how versatile your Swiss design posters can really be. I'm not sure exactly what it's advertising, but it's obvious that it has a lot of sponsors. And this poster does a fantastic job of managing all of those sponsors, even though there's like 40 of them in one poster. And yes, they easily could have moved this little one right over here, but it actually creates this really cool L shape down here, and throwing in the Facebook logo right there, it just does something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but it just creates this really cool visual interest for the poster itself. And then the shaping right here, these are just squares with rounded corners on one side, and it's mirroring that D right up there. This could possibly be representing an E, or it could be a C. I'm not exactly sure because I just can't read this. And I'm sorry, I didn't research every single one of these posters. I'm just talking about it from a visual perspective. But I love how these colors work really well together, the pink and then this kind of dark tealish blue. Overall, it's just a really cool and nice original design. All right, next up is a very effective poster at Communication. All right, so this one says, another expedition of pretentious rubbish for elitists. And it's just funny. This is obviously designed to grab your attention immediately. It's using a giant X that's red, so that is obviously going to make you look at it in a sea of other posters and signage. Something like this is definitely going to stand out and make you come over and read it. And the layout here is just beautiful. I'd love to see the original grid for this one too. But everything is aligned very nicely. There's really good hierarchy going on here. And then again, this poster makes really good use of those sponsored logos down here. Of course, anything red or orange, I'm going to be very partial to, and I love this design. All right, we're going to follow that up with another red design right here. This one is a lowercase I believe. The text right up here is very, very small, but I'm pretty sure this, oh yeah, this is a Green Day poster. And let's see if we've got the release date, we've got a label, and we've got a track listing. So this is American Idiot. And so obviously the I right there is standing for Idiot. 08, is that probably Green Day's 8th release? Okay, I just looked it up. I'm not exactly sure what the 08 means right here because American Idiot was their 7th studio album. So not really sure exactly what that means, but that's fine. We'll just go with it. But I love the balance in posters like this. You've got this giant visual element right up here that's supposed to be your graphic. And then balancing that is the lowest profile text you've ever seen. So this is very small type right over here, and this one is a pretty good size type on this side, but for some reason it just works really well. That balance is everything. And obviously these colors right here are mimicking the album cover's color palette. I'm not sure if there's something that I'm supposed to be seeing right here. All I see is a lowercase I, and the album cover is a hand holding a grenade that looks like a heart. So if it's supposed to be representing that, I would say this is the only weakness of this poster design, unless there's something that I'm just clearly missing and I'm not seeing it. But does that make it a bad poster? Absolutely not. This is a great poster. All right, and last up is a design that is using Swiss design principles, but there's no typography. So this is just a collection of abstract shapes, but there's definitely a system going on here. So all we've got right here are circles and then rectangles or just lines and strokes, whatever you want to call it. But the layout here is very interesting and you get a really good sense of depth. These circles that are laid on top of these larger circles are meant to be reflections. And then you've got a good range of sizes for these lines right here. This is a nice chunky one. And then in other places, you've got smaller and thinner ones. So this is giving a good sense of depth because some of them look closer and some of them look further. So just remember that your sizing can be very effective in your designs. When you're doing a layout of something similar to this, you definitely want to have a really good perception of depth. And plus the color palette is just really cool. This design overall actually reminds me of chandeliers at a skating rink that I went to when I was a kid. That was the first thing I thought of. What was the first thing you thought of? All right, so here's everything that we took a look at today. If you'd like me to do tutorials based on any of these posters in this video, let me know which ones down in the comments and I'll be sure to do that for you. I hope this video was valuable to you. If it was, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.